Hey, it's Alexander Craig, astrologer and intuitive. Welcome back to this month's video on the astrology of May 2025. We're going to be talking about the highlights of the month. So, specifically, the full moon in Scorpio on May 12th. We have a new moon in Gemini on May 26th, as well as Saturn, the planet of order, structure, limitation, delay. Going into the sign of Aries this month as well, which is a really big deal. And we're going to be talking about what that means for you. If you're liking the vibe so far, if you're new here, welcome. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click that like button, click the notifications button so you don't miss an update. And this month, we're just going to get right into it with the forecast for each rising sign. By the way, if you're watching this video, I always suggest listening for your rising sign first. It's going to be more accurate. It's how astrologers make horoscopes. You can then follow that up with either your sun or your moon, maybe whatever resonates more for you, but definitely watch the rising sign first. That's kind of how it is organized. So when you're ready, you can go ahead and just click on one of the chapters with your sign below, or if you're listening to the audio version of this, you can go ahead and find those timestamps in the show notes. And by the way, if you're wanting a deeper look at this month's energy, if you're wanting more of like a year ahead forecast, or if you're wanting more of a psychic medium reading, I'm a professional astrologer and intuitive. You can find me at dogstaroracle.com, dogstaroracle.com. All the links will be in the info below. So let's go ahead and get to it. Okay, Aries rising, let's get to it. So the astrology for you is pretty interesting this month, I think solely based on that really big ingress of Saturn into your sign. It's been sitting in your 12th house the past couple years. Saturn through the 12th. The 12th house can be about like unconscious things, your subconscious, long-term health things, logical kinds of things. And Saturn can really kind of point out where you have like certain fears as well. And so, Saturn kind of going through your 12th house, it's sort of like almost like organizing, like helping you to sort of organize or sort of see like maybe where we have like old programming or fears or anxieties that sort of need to be examined. But going into your sign is going to be interesting. But I want to go in order here. So first, let's talk about that full moon in Scorpio happening for you on May 12th. So this is a really emotional and intense full moon for everyone. It always is when the moon is in Scorpio. It's in the sign of really big, intense, deep feelings, and furthermore, the moon in Scorpio, she's considered to be fallen in Scorpio. She's very cozy and secure and comfortable in the sign of Taurus. And when the moon is in Scorpio, it's like let's fucking get real. It's kind of how I really see that energy. And For you, this full moon may have something to do perhaps with where you like pool money. So it's in your eighth house. The eighth house has to do with like joint resources, money that you'd share with a partner, money that's sitting in like investment, retirement accounts, things having to do with credit or loans. So there can definitely be some sort of the energy around this full moon um, is there's like this sort of upheaval or surprise kind of energy. There also can be sudden revelations, and the reason why I say that here, let me show you what I'm actually happening to be looking at here. Um, the reason why I say that is because this full moon is going to be opposite Uranus. So this full moon is actually going to be about 22 degrees. I think I'm like an hour off here. Let me turn that a little bit. Never mind. So this full moon will be at about 22 degrees. So pardon the screen here, but again, sort of like surprises, maybe some upheavals, or like sudden news. Or the good thing about this full moon is that could really help you to do things differently or to have like a breakthrough. Like if you're stuck in a certain pattern, it can help you to like embrace doing something different. But there's like an electricity to this full moon. Um, and also just maybe having to deal with with something with some certain like surprise or something is definitely part of this full moon's energy. It doesn't have to be negative, but it definitely does feel like perhaps there is some perhaps like the focus will be on finances. Perhaps there's maybe a maybe there's a change in your finances or a partner's finances, or perhaps you're like looking at getting credit in a different way, or perhaps you're just sort of learning to maybe like shift or pivot something in your financial world a little bit in this energy. One of the other things with a full moon in the eighth house can also be like the eighth house is sort of like if we look at the seventh house as like partnerships and relationships. The eighth house is sort of like the emotional stuff that we like the emotional baggage that like when we're in relationship like with someone, or like the sort of the deeper kind of intimate intricacies that we get when we're in relationship with someone. So something could be coming up, something like emotional could be coming up around a relationship. This full moon in Scorpio, I think, can show you really some sort of deeper emotional truths. It may also be about like some deeper psychological baggage you might be carrying as well. But there is this like sudden kind of surprise energy. And again, it doesn't have to hit you so profoundly and so specifically, but we are all going to feel this energy to a certain degree. Also, there is almost like a reverberation of this energy, or I don't know how to put it. Like, I would just kind of keep an eye, like, if you really felt this full moon, I would also keep an eye on May 17th, when the sun in Taurus will make a conjunction to Uranus. And there may be some like repeating of themes for you that day. Could be around, making like different decisions with money. Perhaps you're going to make money in like a different way. You're like thinking about your resources and assets like differently. It also could like you could have some breakthroughs as far as your own kind of self worth goes as well. Um, but yeah, very, very deep full moon for you. And it's a very kind of psychic full moon energy too. Like I always notice like on a full moon in Scorpio, or like whenever the moon is in Scorpio in general, my intuitive readings go really well. Like I'm just able to kind of get right to the point. So that's that full moon. I am going to say also it is ruled by a Mars in Leo, because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. We want to look and see what Mars would be doing around that time. Mars being in Leo, it just sort of adds to like there's power around this. There's power around this full moon. Mars being in Leo, we're going to be able to tap into passion, to courage, sort of leading with our hearts. And Mars at that time is actually in a trine to Venus. Mars is moving away from Venus, but I still feel like that trine is going to be in the background a little bit. So there is some like passion and there is some heat around this around that full moon in Scorpio. But I definitely kind of feel like financial stuff is coming up for you. Maybe a completion, maybe an ending, maybe just news and awareness around a financial matter, or there could be just a lot of insight and revelations coming up having to do with like emotions and like relationship stuff. So let's go to we have Saturn moving into Aries, and that is going to be, I think, 2 days before that new moon in Gemini. So let's go ahead and pull that up. So right on May 25th, actually, I think it's technically May 24th, May 24th, May 25th. Saturn is going to go into the sign of Aries. Very big deal. Saturn is in a sign for about 2.5 years, 2.5 3 years, kind of depending on like retrogrades and all this other, and all of this other stuff. So Saturn has been in Pisces since for good. Saturn has been in Pisces since 2023. I think since March 2023. So again, Saturn's been really kind of camped in your 12th house for the most part. Saturn moving into your first house. Let me actually close my screen here. Saturn is moving into your sign. So if Saturn is the planet of structure, of order, of not taking the easy way out, of lessons, limitations, delays, learning to work with what you have, I think you're really about to go on some, like you're getting ready to go through a really big growth spurt. You've been going through, I think, some pretty deep changes like the past couple years because we've had eclipses in your sign and in your partnership sector since 2020, since late 2023. So you've been feeling some changes, I think, in your identity, how you approach life, and also in your like a big primary like relationship. And now it's sort of like you're sort of taking a step further into kind of maturing, into gaining wisdom. I could see you over. Saturn, by the way, is going to be in Aries until the beginning of September this year, and it'll dip back into Pisces until when did I say that's happening? Until February 15th, 2026. And so this is kind of like a taste of this transit. When Saturn goes through your first house, you could find that, especially since Aries is about leadership, that you're sort of called to be a leader, to be like a wise one, to be an elder. I remember when Saturn went through my first house in Scorpio, that was like when I became like a manager, for the first time. And it was not an easy job. It was actually like a very challenging kind of experience. But at the end of it, I learned so much and I just like really gained a lot of maturity through that transit. Saturn and Aries, it's like Saturn can kind of slow things down. If you're used to being really impulsive and kind of just doing it, Saturn is going to be like, whoa, 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 wait a second. It's like, let's just take a second. So I really see this as a big kind of growth experience for you. I would also just kind of pay attention to things with your physical body because Saturn going through Aries, Aries is your physical body. It is your physical vitality. It's your identity. Like paying attention to things like your joints and your bones. Like if you're someone who just goes to the gym and like lifts and doesn't stretch, it's like Saturn is like, okay, let's take a hot second here. So I think again, being the elder, being the wise one, taking a moment before being impulsive and kind of rushing into things and kind of embracing leadership is sort of how I see Saturn and Aries for you. It is interesting too because Neptune is in your sign as well. Saturn is going to kind of be chasing Neptune this year, and they're going to make a conjunction in your first house as well. So, that I'm not even sure how to interpret right now. It's sort of like I kind of feel like you're going to be maybe developing different structures that will serve you in your life because Neptune going into your sign too, there's sort of like a spiritual kind of mystical energy around you right now as well. It's sort of like I kind of see you stepping into leadership, but there's also like a spiritual leadership quality as well. So that is a little taste of Saturn going through your sign. Now let's see. We have our new moon in Gemini. So this happens on May 26th. Let me actually show you what I have going on here too. Let's show you my screen. Okay. Okay, so Aries, the new moon in Gemini, this is a really busy social, like lively new moon. This new moon is going to occur about 6 degrees of Gemini. So if you have, around 6 degrees of the mutable signs of Gemini, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Virgo in your chart, you'll feel this new moon a little bit more. This is a lovely new moon. I'm gonna say like it feels like a very nice new moon. Um, this is in your third house. So number one, so there's a lot of enthusiasm, I would think, around like various communications projects. This is a good time to start a course or to learn something new or to like start a book or just to like start any kind of wordy intellectual thing that you're going to be doing. It is also a good time for you, I think, to maybe like reconnect with people in your local community, to connect to siblings, to connect to like childhood friends. Because again, it's a very kind of busy social energy, and third house things tend to be things that are more like local to you, like local community. Also, this is the last time we're getting Jupiter will be going into Cancer, I think, on June 10th. So how many days away? That's like a week and a half away from this new moon. So you want to maybe think about how your third house world has expanded since Jupiter's tour through it since May of 2024. Because Jupiter, the planet of expansion, has been in that part of your chart since then. So you might want to think like, hey, have I acquired any new modes of transportation? Have I traveled more? Has my mind been more busy? Have I sort of been busy learning? Have I received opportunities through people, through like siblings or neighbors or people that are close to me. Jupiter is going to go into your fourth house of home and family starting June 10th. So anything like around moving or home or property or family gets a nice boost when Jupiter moves into that sign. But if you're thinking of it starting anything communications related, now would be the time to do it around that new moon, so you can kind of take advantage of Jupiter of Jupiter being there. Also, around this new moon, like I said, really busy, social, lively energy. I would also say this new moon is really good for like anything that requires deep concentration, thinking, or investigation or research, because it will be trine Pluto, that planet of obsession and intensity in Aquarius in your 11th house. So if there's something that requires collaboration with friends or collaboration with like-minded people or anything in like networking in groups, this is a very helpful new moon. But very straightforward Gemini new moon, because this new moon in Gemini is ruled by Mercury in Gemini. And when we look at the planet ruling the moon, or excuse me, when we look at a planet that sort of rules the lunation, it's Gemini, it's ruled by Mercury. We want to see what Mercury is doing. Mercury rules Gemini. Mercury loves being Gemini. That is for home turf. So again, anything communications, social, lively, intellectual energy, and anything third house related, communications, travel, taking a course, studying something, something related to information, data, communication, words, and really just, I think, getting involved in like local community stuff is how I see that for you. So that is what we have for Aries. Let's go ahead and move on to Taurus. Okay, Taurus rising. Let's talk about what's going on for you this month. So let's go ahead and start with this full moon in Scorpio. That's going to be happening on May 12th. Let's pull up your sign. All right, Taurus rising. So, the full moon is going to be happening for you in your 7th house. Let me actually share my screen because I always like looking at what I'm doing. That's nice. Also, that's my Mercury Gemini. I'm like, I want to see, like, I want to know what's going on. So the full moon happens on May 12th. It's going to be about 22 degrees of Scorpio. So pretty early in the morning is kind of when that's happening. This is a very emotional and intense full moon. And I think a lot of it is going to be around relationships for you. Because this full moon is happening in your 7th house of partnership. It feels like a kind of like emotional release or some kind of emotional kind of culmination or profound realization. This could also kind of coincide with maybe like a sudden upset or an upheaval or like a twist you didn't see coming. It doesn't have to be bad. It could be, it could be a good surprise that people, especially Tauruses, freak out when I say surprise, because we Taurus really enjoy like knowing what's coming. The reason why I mention we have these sort of surprises, upheavals, twists, or even revelations is because this full moon is opposite. This full moon is opposite Uranus. Uranus has to do with like revolution, change. It is like the bringer of sudden change and kind of, but also like releasing you from sort of what binds you and kind of helps you make breakthroughs, because it sort of helps you like to understand that you don't have to color inside the lines, you can color outside the lines. And also I will point out too that especially if you're like if you have Taurus rising at like a later degree, Uranus is finishing up its tour in Taurus this year. It's been in Taurus since about 2018. And I think it depends kind of where your Taurus, the degree of your Taurus ascendant falls, or wherever you have a Taurus in your chart. But Uranus has pretty much touched all of us at this point. It could definitely make life more exciting. It could definitely kind of bring up like a sudden bump or something too. But it's really kind of saying, it's like, okay, these structures that you really are holding on to so much, like the way that you live your life, it's like time to embrace something different, time to embrace something unusual. So this can definitely bring in some sort of development in a relationship, whether that is romantic, like a romantic partnership. It could be that like, hey, we've been dating and now let's take it to like, now we're suddenly kind of taking it to like the next level. On the other hand, it could be like, you know what, I'm really not feeling this and I really want to honor my own feelings in this and just be like, it could be you making a decision in a relationship that the other person doesn't really see coming. It could be an exciting partnership, like business wise or platonic wise, and kind of consider where it's not just, I think sometimes when we look at the seventh house, we automatically think relationships with people, and that's what it is most of the time, but it could also be relationships with your work, or whatever it is in your life, but something that you are in relationship with. It's asking you to go deeper, to connect to like deeper emotions, and there is like a real intensity around it. Something with the full moon in Scorpio is, I think, about letting go of control, and letting go of expectations. The Scorpio likes to have control. Taurus is the same way. And with Uranus in the mix here, it's saying like kind of like anything goes with this energy, or just be aware that that there might be some kind of twist coming, and to kind of embrace it, whatever that is. The energy of this full moon does feel kind of hot and passionate, I will say as well, because when we look at Scorpio, we do want to look at Mars, because Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, and we have Mars in Leo, Mars in a fire sign, Mars in a very passionate fire sign. So around this full moon, there could be, there's there's definitely some energy around leaning into what you want, like being very vocal about sort of pursuing what it is that you desire, leading from the heart, and really will help you tap into being courageous. Mars at the time of the full moon is moving away from a trine with Venus, but I feel like it's maybe still there. So, a Mars Venus aspect, there is some kind of hot kind of energy here, some like steamy kind of energy, but very, 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 very palpable full moon to start off with our first lunation. So next um, we have Saturn going into Aries. And Saturn spends about 2-3 years in a sign, kind of give or take, like retrogrades and all that stuff. Saturn has been in Pisces, and by the way, Saturn. Okay, let's talk about what the hell Saturn is, right? Saturn is the planet of order, structure, limitation, delays, lessons. Like lessons that are sort of hard won. It can be like areas of life that are challenging, but it's sort of like that there's a reward for us at the end here, because it really is kind of like the harsh teacher is Saturn, and also kind of just helps you get real and helps define things and helps you realize what's sort of really important. So Saturn has been in your 11th house of friendships and groups and networks. Maybe you've been sort of realizing who your real friends are since March of 2023, when Saturn entered that sign. Maybe you would have positions of leadership or responsibility, or maybe just challenges, considering like-minded people, friendships, groups, people that you surround yourself with, colleagues, that kind of thing. Saturn is moving into your 12th house. So Saturn moving into Aries, the 12th house is like things that are hidden from you. It's the subconscious, long-term sort of chronic health things. It's themes having to do with rest and retreat, and also themes having to do with like how we can sort of self-sabotage ourselves, things that our shadow, and things that we don't see. So Saturn is going to maybe point those things out to you. It's going to sort of point out maybe where we have certain fears or anxieties or programming that's maybe a little bit outdated, because Saturn going through your 12th house, Saturn can have to do with fears. So kind of knowing, like, especially since Saturn is going to be next to Neptune a lot of the time. Sort of Neptune is always interesting to explain, because it's like imagination, illusion, spirituality, mysticism, but also things that are not real. So it's sort of like Saturn is like, hey, this fear and anxiety that we have may not actually be rooted in reality. So also just having, like, just to sort of take care of long buried psychological things, really get in touch with your spirituality, and really kind of own your shadow. And because it is in Aries, it's sort of like there's like just general lessons for like taking charge and leadership. That's going to be coming up for you as well. But I really feel like Saturn in Aries for you is like digging deep, essentially, and kind of figuring out, maybe letting go of some old programming, essentially. And so Saturn will be in Aries until the beginning of September, and then it's going to pop back into your 11th house until February of 2026. So that's going to be, so I would just maybe notice the energy shift when it does go into Aries, and kind of maybe, like journal about it, kind of notice how you are feeling and kind of what new themes are coming up. Because when a planet goes into a new sign, I use whole sign houses. So like the way that we divide the chart is by sign boundary. And regardless if you use it a different house system, I think there's a shift in energy when a planet goes into a new sign. So let's look at the new moon in Scorpio now, happening on May 26th, just a couple days after Saturn goes into Aries. So this new moon is Gemini is pretty delightful, I will say. Oh, let's bring up right at the wrong. Okay, let's share that again. Okay, here we go. Okay, cool. So the new moon in Gemini is, first of all, it's a very busy, lively, social energy. It is for talking, it's for visiting, it's for connecting with people, talking to someone on the phone that you haven't talked to in a long time, or getting excited about something, about some sort of new intellectual thing or idea or communications project. In general, though, for you, I think it's a really good opportunity for money. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, has been in Gemini since May 2024, and it's been cruising through your second house. Jupiter in Gemini is not, I think, had some challenges since it's been in Gemini. I'm going to say for you, though, I would maybe look back and see, like, hey, have I had more financial opportunities? Have I had a little bit more cash coming in? Have I had a second income? Or what around your cash, assets, income, money that you make, as well as your own values and self-worth? What has Jupiter taught you, or where have you felt some expansion? Because it may not be like it may not be like I won the lottery. It could be like, yeah, I got like a little bit of a raise at work, and like I was able to afford this thing since Jupiter has gone through this sign. So this new moon is going to be the last new moon with Jupiter in Gemini. So there could be maybe this might be time that you're like, hey, if you're a freelancer, it could be that you're going to raise your prices. It could be that you're asking for some kind of promotion, because this new moon is trine Pluto, the planet of intensity, obsession, and transformation, in your 10th house of career. So there is like a link to maybe like a powerful person or authority figure that can help you with finances, or there's something with like work connecting to money with this new moon that feels really good. And this could just be like exploring some options. It's like, hey, let's like look at different ways to make money, if that resonates with you. It may not even have to be something that you're like doing. It could just be like money shows up. But it is good for finances, money, cash, movable assets with this new moon. And at the very least, I would say this may also prompt some investigation, some research, some deep thinking around your finances. But this is a good time to organize them and like look at your budget, figure out where you're bleeding money on fucking subscriptions you don't need, and because this can really provide a lot of clarity information on your cash flow. So that is what we got going on for you, Taurus. Let's go ahead and, all right, Gemini rising. Let's fix my mic. Probably good. So Gemini rising, hello, welcome to May 2025. Let's talk about what's going on for you this month. So we have, let's see what's going on for you. We got a full moon in Scorpio. Let's talk about that first. So that's going to be May 12th, 2025. Big emotional, intense full moon. And for you, the topics around it are probably going to be around your work, how you work, your work grind, who you work with, coworkers, people you employ, how you take care of your physical body, things around illness. And I'm not saying that you're getting sick like around this full moon, but just like how you take care of yourself and wellness and health. As well as pets can come in with this energy too. So a Scorpio full moon is always going to be emotional, always going to be intense. And this one, I think, is going to maybe prompt some surprises or sudden U-turns or sudden revelations, because this full moon is opposite Uranus. And I'm going to say, like, I would pay attention to sort of sudden insights that would spring from your subconscious, or sudden information around things that you just did not see before, because the sun and Uranus are in your hidden 12th house. That's where Taurus is for you. So it's like things that you just didn't see, I think, may become illuminated. Or it also could be that like things like connected to work. It's like, hey, all of a sudden my work routine's changing. It could be something that that you are like bringing, like that you are bringing through. Like, you know what? I have some flexibility in my schedule. I'm going to change things. I don't know why I've been doing it this way for so long. I'm going to do it differently. It could be that something in your work is changing and it's like outside, it is outside of your control. I would say let go of control during this full moon. The full moon in Scorpio really wants control. When it's connected to Uranus, it's sort of like all bets are off. So I would just like embrace change if it's happening in your work or in your work life. It could also be an event that's sort of prompting you to really look at your health and be like, okay, like what's going in my body? How am I taking care of myself? What's my exercise routine look like? Like what are the things that I really need to be paying attention to as far as physical health and wellness? It could be that you're completing something, or you're like, you know what, this gym membership sucks. I'm going somewhere else. It could be something as mundane as that. But the way it comes in, it could be just like all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I'm over it. I'm so sick of this class I've been going to. I want to go try like a different sort of exercise class. There's a lot of attention, energy, and emotion around those various themes for you. I would also pay attention to May 17th, because that's when the sun will conjunct Uranus, about 26 degrees, or maybe 27 degrees of Taurus. And again, that could sort of prompt insight, lightning bolt moment, revelations, possibly connected to this full moon energy. And again, it might be around something that springs from your subconscious, or something that you just were not seeing before. So keep an eye on. That's going to be 5 days after that full moon in Scorpio. This full moon in Scorpio is ruled by Mars and Leo. Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, so I always look to Mars and see what the hell Mars is doing. This is a full moon for Mars and Leo. Can I think help you just sort of take charge of your life? It's like sort of taking back control. And I think that we're going to have like a lot of energy and vitality around this full moon. There's a lot of passion and courage that Mars and Leo sort of lends it's this energy to. It is moving away from Venus, so it's trying Venus, the planet of love, be relationships, and it's moving away. So it's not like the strongest aspect, but I still feel like there's a lot of like passion around this full moon. There's some heat, and there's definitely some electricity around this full moon for you. So we have also we have Saturn, the planet of limitation, delay, lessons, hard work, structure, moving into Aries. That's going to be happening around May 24th, May 25th, somewhere in there. I think it's like really, really, what was it? Like, I can't remember. Let's look. You know what? Because I keep saying it like in between. I'm like, when is the actual ingress? Okay. Yeah, it's like really late in the day, May 24th. If you're in Denver, Colorado, it's like around 10:30 is when Saturn moves into Aries. So Saturn has been in Pisces since March 2023. So that means that Saturn has been camped in your 10th house of career and authority figures, your professional image, your public reputation. So, I think I talked to a friend who has Gemini rising a lot, and for her, finding the balance of like, she really wants to put a lot of energy to work, but also there's like family stuff that she's dealing with. It kind of just figuring out a balance, like work-life balance, I feel like has been hard for the mutable risings, Gemini, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Virgo. And so Saturn going through your 10th house, this, like the past couple of years, it could have been a harvest time. It's like, hey, I've been putting in the work for a long time now, and it's sort of time to harvest. And maybe you felt that time as a sense of accomplishment, a lot of work, a lot of duty, and a lot of responsibility, like in career, yes, but maybe some accomplishment. On the other hand, maybe work things, and maybe career has been really challenging for you. Maybe your public reputation has for some reason been kind of a struggle, or maybe there's just been a lot of limitations and delays around you in work and career. That should start to change as Saturn goes into your 11th house. So Saturn is going into your 11th house, going into Aries May 24th through September 1st or 2nd. And then it's going to backslide into Pisces until February 2026. And then after that, it's going to be in Aries for the rest of its time, like until 2028. So this is just sort of just a preview. Saturn in your 11th house, you may find yourself like kind of identifying and paring down like who your actual friends are, because the 11th house is the house of helpful people, of friends, of colleagues, of like-minded people in community. So it could be that you're taking on like a leadership role, that there's somehow like some responsibility around you connected to groups and people and people like that. People that you have a shared or or common interest with. Or perhaps you're sort of limiting or defining who your actual friends are. Saturn also going through Aries too. That is a good time to also focus on what your goals are, because the 11th house is the house of hopes, wishes, and goals for the future. So that period of so Saturn going through Aries may help you identify, like, if you're like stretched thin, like a lot of mutable risings I know, like I got this going on and this going on and this going on. Saturn in Aries might be like, okay, girly, let's focus on a couple things. Let's sort of pare it down. So there's something about limiting, paring things down, and defining things when it comes to goals and wishes for the future, as well as friends and like-minded people that are around you at during that Saturn in Aries transit. Also, Saturn will be co-present with Neptune, or really pretty much conjunct Neptune, for a lot of its stay in Aries. So there's something about merging like the spiritual ideal with like the practical ideal, connected to, again, friendships and things that I mentioned in your with the 11th house. So we get a new moon in Gemini a couple days later, May 26th. That new moon is going to happen. It's going to be at 6 degrees of Gemini. And guess what? It's your new moon of the year. A new moon in your rising sign is always a good thing. In this sense, this is a really, really good new moon. This is a very lively, social, intellectual new moon. It's like, hey, let's do lunch plans. I haven't caught up with this person in a long time. Let's hang out. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to start a class. Like, Gemini is communication, intellectual things, reading, connecting. The mind is busy. We are social. It's a very kind of social energy. I would. This new moon is also ruled by Mercury in Gemini, so it really gives it a lot of strength. So, like, this is a true beginning. This is a true new beginning, like planting a seed. This is also maybe an enthusiastic beginning for you personally as well, because it is the last new moon that we're going to have with Jupiter, the planet of expansion, in your sign in Gemini. Jupiter has been in Gemini since May 2024. So maybe think about how you've expanded, what opportunities you've said yes to, if you've traveled more, if you've taught more, if you simply have to kind of really connect with the energy of Jupiter, which is like kind of learning about the bigger picture of the world and really just kind of greeting things with enthusiasm and optimism. That's not to say there hasn't been challenges, because Jupiter has been square Saturn the whole time it's been in Gemini. However, like, just kind of think about maybe how like the past year has gone and how you've opened yourself up a little bit more. So this is a really, I think, like a fresh start, a new beginning, like a turning of the chapter for you. And I would really kind of embrace, like, even if it's not something like actual, like, physical, practical, like a solid thing that you're starting, just consider this like your own kind of like new beginning, kind of wiping the slate clean is kind of what I'm getting for you with this energy. And I also just think that you're going to feel more busy and more social anyway. This is also a good time to maybe prompt some kind of deeper questioning. What is the word that I'm looking for? Introspection. I'm not sure it's introspection, but deeper connection with the divine around this new moon, because this new moon will also be trine Pluto, the planet of intensity, obsession, and transformation, in your ninth house of higher education, travel, and spirituality. So this around this new moon is actually a good time for any kind of investigation, any kind of research. But I think so it could be around like higher education things, around travel, other cultures, or simply kind of getting in touch with the divine. It's like there is, I would, with this new moon, if you find yourself a little like, hey, I have a lot of options, because that is Gemini energy. I think maybe take some time to kind of connect with the divine or with your higher self, or however it is that you see that. Because there is an energy around this moon that's really good for investigation and research and just connecting deeply to something. So happy birthday, my Gemini risings. Let's go ahead and talk about Cancer. Hey, Cancer rising, let's talk about your astrology for May 2025, starting with the full moon in Scorpio happening on May 12th. So This is a very emotional, intense full moon. Yay! So, as full moons in Scorpios, full moons in Scorpio always are. A full moon in Scorpio really kind of prompts you to sort of like it really gets you in touch with very deep emotions. And I think that a full moon in Scorpio, it's really good for like release of something as well, especially like buried emotions and things connected to that. But there's, I think, maybe a surprise or two in store for your love life, things connected to pregnancy and childbirth, and also anything connected to like your creativity. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm writing a book. It's like, oh, like I've been working on this like chair I've been building in my garage. That's also a fifth house thing. It's things that you create. It doesn't just have to be like what we think of as creativity. But definitely it feels like a very passionate kind of full moon. So the reason I say surprises, I'm going to say surprises, sudden U-turns, sudden revelations, and breakthroughs. And I'm going to say because wow, I can't talk today. This full moon is opposite Uranus, which is why I say that. The planet of revelations, of change, sudden insight. And Uranus has to do with like electricity. I'm good. I think just kind of keep an eye on this full moon, like in the world, because it's like the kind of full moon that we can see sort of like sudden shocking news. It may have nothing to do with you. It may that sudden shocking news is happening to someone else or happening to like a celebrity or something that's going to be in the news around that time. But for you, like I'm gonna say, embrace change when it comes to romance and your sexual energy. If you've been feeling like a little dry or like a little stale, or you need some romance, there's definitely some activity happening here. It could be with maybe with like a friend that is sort of turning into like a lover all of a sudden. This full moon just may kind of prompt you to kind of put yourself out there and do something different and not be stuck inside. Like I would say, embrace change with this full moon. It could be that it's really kind of igniting passion within hobbies and recreation and things that you like that are fun for you. There's just a lot of attention and emotion to those topics kind of going on for you around that full moon. It also could be an event connected to a child in your life as well. It may have nothing to do with you. It could be like an event connected to that. It also like if you're trying to get pregnant, like a full moon in your fifth house, it could indicate like pregnancy or something going on with pregnancy. So, um, by the way, I'm going to say if when Jupiter goes into Cancer, on June 10th, I'm gonna say if you don't want to be pregnant and you're capable of becoming pregnant, I take precaution that that does not happen. Just because Jupiter can expand your body, or Jupiter going into your first house can mean expansion of body. Cancer is children, so just keep that in mind. Maybe, yeah, I would say surprise or revelation, or maybe a completion or ending in store for things connected to love life, hobbies, or recreation, pregnancy, and children. Either way, there's a lot of electricity and intensity with this full moon. This full moon is ruled by Mars in Leo. Traditionally, we look at Mars as the ruler of Scorpio. There's a lot of courage, a lot of passion, and fire energy that's sort of guiding this full moon. And this can really help you to sort of lead with your heart, to be very connected to courage, and to really just kind of go for it and kind of take the reins a little bit. um, so is there anything else I want to say? I would say also pay attention to May 17th, because this almost like a continuation of this full moon, and I would kind of direct your attention to your friends sector of your chart, because there's a Sun Uranus conjunction at about 27 degrees on May 17th. That's sort of an extension of this full moon, and that could be sudden opportunity, sudden surprise, sudden electrical energy connected to friends, like-minded people, people that are generally kind of in your corner, colleagues, groups that you belong to. Maybe it's just maybe some sudden excitement happening there, or a sudden ending also connected to that as well, or like separation. Um, so yeah, pay attention to that. Let's look at May 24th, because that is when Saturn is going to be going into Aries. So Saturn is the planet of limitation, delays, lessons, hard work, practicality, what is real. And Saturn is going into Aries, and it's going to be there until about September 1st, where it slides back into Pisces until February 2026. where it then goes back into Aries, where it will be there for a few years. So Saturn is going to be taking up residence in your 10th house of career. So Saturn has been in Pisces since 2023, and maybe you've been working hard on developing your beliefs, spirituality. Maybe there's been limitations and delays on things connected to travel and education, but maybe a lot of work there. Or maybe you've been putting a lot of work into things like broadcasting or publishing and media endeavors. So Saturn going into Aries is going to be interesting because that's your career sector. So I really see this as there's a couple things. Saturn going through your 10th house, it can be like a culmination of what you began 14 years ago when it was going through your I think it's 14 years. Yeah. About 14 years ago when it was going through your fourth house. Fourth house is home and family. They can also be very foundational things. Saturn going through your 10th house, it's sort of like it could be a harvest time. It could be like I'm harvesting sort of all the work that I've been putting into career. It does come with lessons and responsibility and work connected to career. I can also see you going into more of like a leadership mode or a manager mode. Or just really kind of themes on leadership, I think, connected to career for you. Also, you're going to be blending kind of like what is your sort of spiritual ideal or kind of what inspires you with what you want to do with your career. And kind of merging that with like, the practical kind of real life mundane energy because Saturn will be conjunct Neptune, that planet of illusion, spirituality, mysticism. This really like for several months while it is in Aries. So you may see those two themes sort of combined, but definitely like a new set of lessons. Saturn going into a new sign is a really big energetic shift. You've had a lot of changes, I think, in career and in home and family the past couple of years. It's kind of kind of getting you ready for this transit, but I think showing up in the world as like a wise elder, as a leader, is going to be part of your story, even if you're not the one who's normally like who's like, it's like, that doesn't really sound like me. Well, that transit hasn't happened yet. That is part of prediction. But definitely some themes around like consolidating things in career, crystallizing what it is that you want to do, defining what it is that you do, and really kind of letting go of like extra shit that you don't need to be doing. With Saturn going through Aries. So big shift the end of this month with that. 2 days later, we have the new moon in Gemini. This is a new moon. By the way, this is a very lively social new moon in general. It's really good for. It's really, really good for any kind of new beginning, honestly, especially because it is co-present with Jupiter in Gemini, the planet of expansion, in that same sign. Jupiter has been touring your 12th house of spirituality, your subconscious and hidden things. So maybe you've been connecting more with spirituality, finding, some peace and like rest and retreat, or like it's kind of giving me like, I have my nose in a book around wellness and self-help and spirituality, but I'm kind of doing it away from other people. So this is like a lively new moon and social new moon, but it is the most private sector of your chart. So I'm going to say like, pay attention to insights, just like little bits of wisdom from the universe with this new moon, and perhaps there's like something that you're starting that's in the background, like that's maybe not fully visible to people, or some sort of new like opportunity that sort of comes your way regarding that. Note that Jupiter is going to go into your sign on June 10th. Really big deal. Yay. That is very, very exciting for you. Jupiter is going into your first house of self, identity, body, and Jupiter is really, really strong in the sign of Cancer. So I think a lot of new beginnings coming for you. This new moon there is like a lively, busy social energy quality to it, but on a personal level, you may find this to be like a good time to kind of find some peace and quiet. Or to like, let's have a little gathering of my friends, but like at a cabin in the woods, energy. So Cancer, that's what we have for you. Cancer rising, that's what we have for you. Let's talk about Leo next. Hey Leo rising specifically. This is Alexander Creek. Let's talk about your May 2025 astrology, starting with this full moon on May 12th in the sign of Scorpio. This is a really pretty emotional, intense full moon. And again, when I say intense, it doesn't have to be bad. It's just that full moons in Scorpio do just tend to be emotional and intense. Scorpio is really not afraid of like digging down deep and getting to like the root of something and getting to emotions that we might sort of deem like, really kind of getting to like the raw the rawness. I don't know, the rawness. What kind of word am I saying that? That sounds dirty. But for you, I think attention is gonna be probably on more like home and family things. There could be some sort of completion or maybe just or some drama, or even like an event coming up, but it may be flavored with a feeling of like, I didn't see that coming, some kind of surprise or some kind of breakthrough or even breaking away from something. And that's because this full moon is opposite the planet Uranus, the planet of revolution, change, sudden breakthroughs. I would also, with this full moon, anytime a lunation is connected to Uranus, Uranus is associated with electricity, and I kind of consider those like sudden insights or lightning bolt moments of insight. So certainly moments of revelation can come in with this full moon. You may just be getting a deep understanding into family dynamics that you didn't see before. There may be some event, again, connected to living situation where you're living connected to parents or family with this full moon. At the same time, on May 17th, just a couple days later, about 5 days later, the Sun in Taurus will conjoin Uranus in your 10th house of career. So there we could be getting some information, or you may feel like a stimulating feeling of like breaking free from something or breakthroughs or perhaps like a sudden change in career because those planets are in your 10th house of career, public and professional like reputation. So it feels like home and family and career are kind of where the action is around that full moon period. And kind of going back to that full moon on May 12th, that full moon is ruled by Mars and Leo because when we look at lunation, we want to look at the ruling planet associated with that. Traditionally, Mars rules Scorpio. So Mars and Leo going through your first house, this is a very passionate kind of full moon. Like this is a full moon where you really, I feel like, want to be in the driver's seat somehow. Because Mars is the planet of action, motivation, energy, and war, and it's moving through your sign. It's moving through your first house of self and identity. So I feel like you really want to be in the driver's seat. The Mars is sort of like the guiding planet of this full moon. So, um, you know, passion, courage, sort of leading with your heart and really being in the driver's seat. There's something about control and like not being in control in this full moon because this full moon kind of signals like we might be breaking away from something or we may feel like we don't have a lot of control and Scorpio wants to be in control. So it's like there's this dynamic between wanting to be in the driver's seat, making decisions in your own life, but also maybe dealing with a little turbulence. Or revelations kind of coming through in your really in your private life. I will say that there is some passion and kind of fire running through this full moon, being guided by that Mars and Leo. And Mars and Leo at the time of this full moon will be trine Venus. It's separating from Venus, so it's not as strong. But a Mars Venus trine, there's kind of a little heat, a little delight, a little sexy kind of energy running through that full moon. But I do feel like attention is going to be paid to home, family, and private matters for you middle of the month. So if we look a couple days later, May 24th is when Saturn ingresses into the sign of Aries for the first time. So Saturn has been in Pisces in your 8th house of debts, of loans, credit, other people's money, investments, retirements, and also just like kind of buried emotional things and the emotional intricacies when we are sort of in relationship with someone. And so Saturn moving through that part of your chart since about March 2023. Classically, it can be like, credit can be a little harder to acquire. Having to pay attention, having to work hard, or feeling some limitations or delays when it comes to other people's money and resources that you would have access to, other people's backing. It also could be, Saturn moving through here could just be sort of like the 8th house I think can sometimes be sort of like be buried like emotional things. So like having to kind of work through those or just having to work through like the little snags, like the little intimacy snags when we are in relationship with someone. So Saturn is moving to a much more kind of visible part of your chart when it goes into Aries. It's going to be in Aries from May 24th until about September 1st. And then it's going to slide back into Pisces to finish out Pisces until about February 2026. And then it moves into Aries for good for a few years. So Saturn moving into Aries, much different experience. it's a lot's going to depend on your personal chart. So I'm just looking at like if you had Leo rising, this is kind of what's going on for you. But Saturn moving into your ninth house, Saturn can denote like hard work. It's sort of about like where like the lessons are, where we have to define ourselves, where we have to sort of, there's a feeling of having to wait for things, of limitations, but also like just kind of stepping up and being the adult is sort of where, that's kind of how we think of Saturn. You may be really like defining your beliefs, defining your spirituality. It could be a lot of work toward maybe like an advanced degree or something in higher education. That could come with its fair share of snags and delays because Saturn can represent that as well. Perhaps there's some sort of work thing that is involving like other cultures or travel. Or like we're putting a lot of energy toward those things of like expanding the mind, of travel, of like connecting to divinity. But with Saturn here, it sort of symbolizes like crystallizing what we believe in, defining what we believe. And so I would just pay attention to May 24th through September 1st and kind of note those themes: higher education, spirituality, travel, anything to do with broadcasting and media. Like if you're sitting here and you're like, I really want to watch a YouTube channel, like I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Saturn moving through Aries in the ninth house, but it does denote like, I kind of think of Saturn as like the Eight of Pentacles in tarot. Like I've been sort of like working on something, and by the time Saturn leaves a house, if you've sort of like, it said if you've sort of like integrated like the lessons of Saturn, it can leave that part of your chart in better shape, even though there's a lot of work that we had to do there. Also, anything with like publishing, writing, teaching, these are all very kind of ninth house things too. You're going to be blending that with the energy of Neptune as well. Like Neptune is in your ninth house right now. It will be for the next several years. It is in the sign of Aries. So we're sort of blending like the work, the limitation, the practical realities, along with like a spiritualized ideal. So it's like you may find yourself really inspired, to go back to school, to broadcast, to write a book, to publish something, to teach something, to gain more knowledge. But then Saturn is going to come in. It's like, okay, what are the practical realities here as well? That is just so notice that toward the end of the month, and kind of maybe jot down or maybe journal kind of what events are coming up for you, because that's just going to be a preview through that date range that I mentioned. Finally, we have a new moon in the sign of Gemini rounding up the month on May 26th. This is a very social moon for you. This is also a really good new moon to set intentions, to create new beginnings. It's really kind of wipes the slate clean with this new moon. It's a very positive, straightforward new moon. Like some new moons, we always say like new moons, new beginnings. Not every new moon is a great new beginning. Some new moons kind of frankly kind of suck. So this new moon though, it's very busy, very lively, very social because it is in Gemini. Gemini is a social, busy sign. She has appointments booked, friends to see, books to read, shows to catch up on, things to learn. She has a million different projects going on. And for you, this actually is in your very social 11th house. So this could be new beginnings having to do with social things, with friends, with colleagues, and generally people who have your back. Also, anything to do with like professional organizations that you belong to or groups that you belong to. Doesn't have to be professional. It could be like online groups or clubs or organizations that you happen to be in. It could also spark something about like, this is also an excellent new moon to focus on like what your hopes and wishes and intentions for the future are, because that's also what the 11th house signifies, where this new moon is happening for you. It's like, what do I want to like manifest in the future? Especially because this new moon is co-present with Jupiter finishing up its time in Gemini. Jupiter offers this exuberance, this optimism, and this expansive kind of quality to this new moon. Even though this new moon is pretty far away from Jupiter, it still occupies the same sign. So you kind of want to think about like, how have my goal, like how has my involvement in groups, um, like-minded people? How have I benefited from community? How have I benefited from different groups I'm a part of? Or how have has my or perhaps like have I manifested any of my goals and wishes for the future? How has that changed since Jupiter moved through this part of your chart since May 2024? Kind of think about that with this new moon. But any sort of learning, study, communication, social things that you want to plan goes really well under this new moon because it's ruled by Mercury in Gemini, guiding this new moon. And Mercury in Gemini does really well in the sign of Gemini because it rules Gemini. This is its home plane. I would say also there is this new moon also is that there's a trine to Pluto. Pluto is obsession, intensity, and transformation. And that planet is now in your seventh house of partnership. And like, there's something about maybe because this new moon is making a harmonious aspect to Pluto, like it could be that like, yes, we're getting together with like a bunch of friends and social activities and all this kind of thing, but there could be like some profundity or intensity in your one-on-one connections, or like it could be that with this 11th house community group experience that there's gonna be like one person that you're really connecting with, or that you're finding that there is a lot of like good things to mine in your one-on-one relationships because of this new moon, or there's like a one-on-one relationship that develops because of this spark of energy in your 11th house of friends. So some really nice new moon to kind of round off the month. Hope they give you some insight into this month. And let's go ahead and let's talk about Virgo rising now. Hey, Virgo rising. Let's talk about what's going on for you for the month of May 2025. So let's move this chart ahead an hour. So let's start off by talking about the full moon on May 12th in the sign of Scorpio. This is this is an intense, passionate full moon. There might be some surprises or some revelations or maybe some surprising new information for you with this full moon. This full moon, a full moon in Scorpio is always going to be deeply emotionally charged. It's like does not shy away from uncomfortable truths or uncomfortable emotions. And this full moon is there's like this electrical quality to it because it is opposing Uranus, the planet of revolution, change, and change. Is it chains? I don't know why I said that. Revolution, change, and breakthroughs. And so there could be some surprises, some sudden U-turns. I'm going to say maybe surprising new information for you because it is in your third house. This full moon falls in your third house. Third house things are like your communication space, how you think, but also like your local and kind of daily environment. So it could be like, okay, like the usual route I take to work, all of a sudden I can't take that route anymore. There's like something changing about it, to change my mode of transportation. Or this could also be a surprising kind of correspondence. It's like some sort of email that's like, whoa, it's like really got my attention, has some sort of surprising information in it. It also could just be a lot. It's like something kind of electrical and intense around. It could also have to do with like a sibling, neighbors, or people in your local community. Either way, whatever sort of surprising kind of revelatory Uranus kind of stuff is going on for you, it's going to be in your immediate environment or with your correspondences. This could also be a time that you're like finishing something up connected to like a course of study or like a writing project or some sort of communications project, but there's something surprising twist about the way it ends. Or perhaps it's like an ending that you did not expect. I would also pay attention to about 5 days later when the sun makes a conjunction to Uranus. This full moon is opposite Uranus. A couple days later, the sun makes its annual conjunction to Uranus. That in itself is sort of like an extension of the full moon, and it might be I would really pay attention to insights and like lightning bolt moments from the universe. That's a really good day to like connect with your guides and to get like information. Like it's like you just might have some aha moments connected to spirituality, education, travel, higher mind kind of things. And I'm just gonna say like what I would say like pay attention to sort of insights from your higher self in the universe around May 17th. But otherwise, yeah, it's like that is kind of I would pay attention to interesting news. And I would also say just kind of in the world, May 12th full moon, I would check out the headlines because that Uranus signature is going to be very present. One last thing I'm going to say about that full moon on May 12th, it is ruled by traditionally Mars. So Mars is in Leo right now. Mars is very full steam ahead. Mars is action, energy, motivation, but it is moving through your 12th house. I'm going to say, like, don't neglect rest during this full moon. Or it's sort of like maybe that there's something like going on behind the scenes for you during this full moon. It's like I'm taking action, but on something like behind the scenes. And there is, I think, just kind of like a passionate, kind of fiery energy to this full moon for you in general. But that's what I see for that. Let's talk about what's happening on May 24th as Saturn moves into the sign of Aries. So Saturn is moving into a different sign, very big deal. It's going to be moving into Aries from May 24th to September 1st, and then it's going to backslide into Pisces and finish out its journey there, where it comes back into Aries for good on in February 2026. So Saturn is a planet of like lessons, hard work, limitations, delays, crystallizing and defining things. It kind of really, and also just like responsibility. And Saturn has been moving through your seventh house of partnership since March 2023. It could be that, perhaps your partner has moving through some challenging energy the past couple years. Maybe marriage or partnership or business partnerships have felt quite heavy to you. Or perhaps there's just like, it's like this has been a time where you've really committed to partnership and to sort of in this sort of partnership dynamic. Either way, when Saturn is in like the opposite sign as your ascendant, you just really feel that energy in some area of your life. And usually it's going to come through relationships and partnerships. So Saturn moving into Aries for you is a big deal. And this is just kind of like a taste of the energy. You're maybe going to be working on so Saturn moving into your eighth house. The eighth house is like credit, debt, loans, taxes, inheritances, your partner's money. But a lot of it has to do with your financial life, sort of tied together. And this actually could be a good time to sort of clean up or work on or repair credit, to find old debts out there and get those taken care of. Saturn is work and responsibility, yes, but also this could be like, okay, I need to get fucking serious about this. Typically, Saturn moving through your eighth house can sometimes make credit or things like that, or credit products, a little harder to obtain, because the eighth house can be like, um, it's like other people's in resources and stuff that we have sort of access to. But I think getting some sort of structure around financial life is kind of part of what I see Saturn in Aries doing for you. And also on an emotional level, the eighth house is where we connect with other people's like energy and other people. It's like other people's stuff, and I also see it as other people's energy. If you're someone who's kind of codependent, relationships are a little bit messy for you, this could be a time where you're really kind of focusing on like setting energetic boundaries, and like, hey, that's your stuff, this is mine. Let's not project your weird mom issues onto me, or whatever it is. Saturn moving through your eighth house too can also just be sort of cleaning up your sort of psychological kind of stuff, because the eighth house has to do with intensity, with like intense emotions, with trauma that we can kind of carry around. So this can also spark some just sort of deeper examination and sort of dealing with like, hey, maybe fears that we are sort of carrying around. The eighth house is also death and matters of mortality. So no, I don't think people around you are going to die. I don't think you're going to die, but you may start thinking about like, do I have life insurance? How am I going to be buried? Because Saturn is very much about the grim realities of life, and kind of thinking like, hey, do I have my paperwork in order? Like, do I have my estate in order? That is very kind of Saturn moving through the eighth house. So that is going to join Neptune. I also am going to say that there's like a spiritual element to all of this too. Because Neptune is going to want like the spiritual ideal of these eighth house things. Saturn coming in is sort of like, I'm going to point out like the practical realities of setting all this up. So like Neptune here may think, I don't really know how to put that all together, honestly, but it's sort of like with other people's money, with inheritance taxes and things like that. You may find that there's sort of like a Neptune ideal on how you want to set things up, or how you want your financial life to look, or kind of what you want to manifest. Saturn kind of coming in as like, oh, how can we actually make this a reality, essentially? So, okay. So that is that. Then we have the new moon in Gemini happening on May 26th. This is a really nice new moon. This is a strong new beginning. Focus, first of all, let me back up. New moon in Gemini, this one, very lively, very busy, very social. Our minds are busy, our appointments are filled, we're connecting with people. It's a very social energy. Um, it would be a good time to sort of launch any kind of communication, writing project, anything to do with travel, also here too. But I think the focus for you is going to be on career or things connected to your public and personal, like public and professional, like reputation. It's like it's a new beginning. It's wiping the slate clean. And so if you are looking for a new job, if you're looking for to sort of upgrade yourself in your career, if you're looking to promote yourself if you're looking to promote yourself in any way, this is a good new moon to my camera is like slightly off today and I cannot figure out why it's pissing me off. Okay, hold on. Of course, as soon as we get to Gemini, I get distracted, which is kind of hilarious in itself. Yeah, so anything having to do with career and how you are presenting yourself to the world and promoting yourself will go well under this new moon. It's a fantastic new moon to just sort of set intentions on whatever topic you want, but especially on career things would be beneficial. This new moon is guided by Mercury in Gemini, which rules this new moon. It gives it a very steady quality, and it gives it this quality of like what you are wanting to set your intentions on, or sort of how you're wanting to act on things. It's like they will tend to go well, like because Mercury rules Gemini. It's just steering the ship really, really nicely. And it's really quick, it's very intellectual. It's really good at the communication kind of part. This new moon is co-present with Jupiter, the planet of expansion, prosperity, success, and expansion, in Gemini as well. And Jupiter is toward the end of Gemini here. Um, and so, like, while the new moon is not really very close to Jupiter at all, it's still in the same sign. So there's maybe like an exuberance or optimism into like this would be one of the last times to take advantage of Jupiter moving through your career sector. So I would, if you're really wanting, if you have like this could like give you like a vision of like what I'm wanting to do in career. And so this would be a good time to set intentions connected to that. Jupiter has been in your career sector since May 2024. You might want to think about how we expanded in that part of our life. Like the doors that has opened. I will say Jupiter and Gemini has been pretty challenged this year because it was square Saturn the whole time. So there's kind of this contraction expansion element. It's not just pure Jupiter expansion. It's like, what do I have to let go of? What balance do I have to bring in here? Because it was squaring Saturn and Pisces in your seventh house. So there's like something with relationships that you're sort of working on at the same time too, this whole Jupiter transit. What the hell am I saying? No, that's all. I'm gonna say there's a flowing trine to Pluto, the planet of intensity, obsession, and transformation, now in your sixth house of work and health. Pluto moved into that part of your chart for good for the next 20 some years this year. And so Pluto is going to start to transform the way you work, how you work, what you do for work, if you work at all, how you take care of your health. And so this new moon in your 10th house connected, making a flowing trine to Pluto. It's like you're really linking those two things together. So if you're wanting a new job, first of all, it's a fantastic new moon for that for you. If you're wanting to simply change something about how you work and how you're seen in your profession, really great for that. It's connecting the larger career piece with also like with your day-to-day work. There's something, it brings in a transformative kind of quality, and it's like those two pieces of your life are going to be working together here, basically. It's like whatever new thing is happening in career kind of supports like your day-to-day grind or how you take care of yourselves. We like that for you. And Jupiter moves into Cancer next month. We're going to talk about that in June. All right, so let's talk about Pisces or Libra. Let's talk about Libra rising. All right, Libra rising. Okay, Libra rising. The full moon. Let's start with the full moon in Scorpio. The full moon in Scorpio is happening for you on May 12th, well, it happens for everyone on May 12th, 2025. I think you're going to be thinking very intensely about your money and your resources, how you earn money, your value and your worth. There could be maybe a change in your income flow, in your spending, something associated with your assets around the time of this full moon. This full moon is deep, it is passionate, it is emotional. And I also feel like this is a really shrewd. So, Scorpio is a sign that I think is good at being able to find where the money is or like who has the bag. And this is a very like this full moon will give you a lot of insight into how you manifest money, your income streams, if you're being underpaid, if you're being overpaid. And it gives you insight into like, hey, like my worth and my value. There is a surprising kind of sudden U-turn or revelatory element to this full moon because this full moon is opposite Uranus, the planet of revolution and change in the sign of Taurus. Um, it could be that there's some surprising information regarding finances. It could be that you have a sudden idea of how to earn more money or a sudden, like or like a business idea or something connected to that. But it is likely to like I just feel like that's gonna be where the vibe is for you. Even though like this is an emotional full moon, this is an intense full moon, it is connected to your money, how you earn a living. Um, I don't know what else I want to say about that. I just feel like you're not fucking around this full moon, especially fucking around with your money. um, there is a couple days later on May 17th, there is a conjunction of the Sun and Uranus in the sign of Taurus. I kind of feel like that's like an extension of this full moon energy because that again gives like this surprising kind of breaking away kind of quality of like I've always kind of viewed money in this respect, or I've always charged this rate. It might all of a sudden be time you're like, I'm going to look at my investment accounts and change things around, or I'm getting surprising information relating to my various bank accounts or money, my partner's money. There could be some surprising information there, or simply like it could just help you sort of shift the way that you view money and kind of give you some new information on it because Uranus can give us surprising insights and revelations and help us to kind of shift our perspective. So you're going to be doing that with your resources and your money with this full moon kind of energy and your stuff, just in general, like the worth of your stuff and also your worth as well. Um, so let's move forward to the Saturn going to Aries. So Saturn goes into the sign of Aries on May 24th. And it's going to be there until about September 1st, where it backslides into Pisces to finish out its journey there until February 2026, when and then it'll fully take up residence in Aries. So Saturn is the planet of work, lessons, limitation, delays, practical realities, responsibility, and it has been moving through, probably slowly grinding through your sixth house of how you work, where you work, who you work with, how you take care of yourself, illness, injury, your physical body stuff, as well as pets. So there could have been a little bit more hardship the past couple years. It also could just have been like, hey, there's a lot of work on my plate. There's a lot of having to balance right now. I mean, in some cases, it could be like there's been like a lot of delays around those things, or I feeling like really limited in how I work. I've been having to work with like a very kind of specific set of resources. Could be some of the ways that Saturn and Pisces may have sort of manifested. Saturn moving into Aries, completely different story. It's going to be around commitment and responsibility in your partnerships, how you show up for your partner. It could be if different things are aligning for you. It could be like like relationship with someone older or a commitment, like some sort of like heavier like a marriage commitment is very Saturn. Like that could be kind of what I am seeing here. When Saturn kind of really kind of spends a lot of time in your seventh house coming up. I'm not saying you're getting married in the next couple months. But if there are other things in the chart that were sort of like to support that, we could very well sort of see like a sustained relationship or marriage with Saturn going through your seventh house. The things that are likely to come with Saturn, though, it's like responsibility, commitment, right, in your relationships. It could also be that your partner is going through like some sort of energies when Saturn is moving through your seventh house. I also feel like Saturn moving through Aries, because Aries is your opposite sign, because it relates to the other. Saturn, moving through that part of your chart, it's sort of like you may only have time to relate to connect with, to be in relationship with so many people. It might be a time of like, listen, I really like I don't really have all the time in the world right now because Saturn tends to be about crystallizing what you want. It can be because Saturn can have like a kind of like limiting kind of practical kind of influence. It's like you may not have time for everyone. It's like I kind of have to pick who I really want to be in relationship with Saturn moving through this part of your chart. Also, Saturn has to do with boundaries too, boundaries in relationships, not being codependent. That's a kind of a Saturn thing. Saturn will be here co-present with Neptune, the planet of sort of higher ideals and spirituality. So it's sort of like you really might be seeking that soulmate kind of relationship over the next few years with Saturn moving through this part of your chart. But sort of Saturn is going to be here too. Like, what is the practical reality of that? How can we make that a reality? How can we balance like this sort of spiritualized ideal of the other with like being here on Earth? But a lot of relationship stuff with Saturn moving into your seventh house in May. So just jot down maybe what's happening for you in relationships. It doesn't have to be every little thing, but just kind of themes that you notice over these next couple months. And then when Saturn returns to Aries in February 2026, you might be able to know what to expect a little bit more, just have some insight on what Saturn is trying to teach you. So lastly, we have the new moon we have a new moon on the 26th of May in the sign of Gemini. So this is a very, I think, intellectually stimulating new moon for you. This is a very kind of busy and social and really kind of delightful new moon in general. It's a really wonderful new moon to sort of set intentions. Not every new moon is great for new beginnings and intentions. This one is. This is a very steady kind of energy. I mean, okay. Gemini is a very busy energy with usually a lot going on. But wherever you want to kind of put your focus with this intellectual, social Gemini energy, it will tend to go well because it is being guided by Mercury in Gemini. Mercury is the planet of communication. It rules Gemini, it does really well in that sign. So we like to see that when it comes to a new moon. That like, yeah, it's like the steers person of this new moon is guiding this moon really beautifully. So this new moon lands in your ninth house. This could be new things or new beginnings connected to higher education, really opening and expanding your mind, anything connected to long distance travel. Maybe you're going to like plan a trip or travel under this new moon. Um, it could be anything connected to higher education, like pursuing that advanced degree, like kind of anything after high school is kind of ninth house energy. Anything connected to spirituality, taking a spiritual course. It could be like learning something about spirituality here. Also, anything having to do with broadcasting, publishing, and media. This could be a time to start a YouTube channel, start a podcast, to submit like a book proposal or to start writing a book, like especially because it's Gemini, it's very communication, very social, very kind of mind focused energy. Also Jupiter, you want to pay attention to this too because this new moon is co-present Jupiter. There's a little bit more optimism around this new moon and just a general kind of note of like positivity and success around this new moon for things that you want to begin or start around now. um, it's not close to Jupiter by degree, but I think being the same sign, it is still significant. Also, pay attention to how like spiritual things, how your personal beliefs, education, travel, all those things that I mentioned that are ninth house things, how those things have expanded for you since May 2024. Have you taken more courses? Have you opened your mind a little bit? Have you traveled a little bit? Or like maybe you had some challenges in those areas too, because Jupiter was square Saturn in your sixth house of work. So maybe it's finding the sort of work balance has been part of Jupiter and Gemini's energy. But Jupiter is going to be moving into your career sector very, very soon. It's going to go into Cancer, which is your 10th house of career on June 10th. We'll talk about that more in another video this month. But this new moon is like really positive and getting ready to say goodbye to Jupiter. And Jupiter is going to be having a whole different story for you. So Libra rising, that is your forecast for May. Let's go ahead and turn our attention to Scorpio rising. So Scorpio rising, let's start with that full moon happening on May 12th. So obviously this is in your sign. You're going to be feeling this a lot more, I think. Like you and Taurus are really going to be feeling this full moon a lot. So this full moon happens about 22 degrees. So if you have planets around there, you're going to be feeling that a lot more. Or you're going to be feeling those. Wow. Can we talk? Can I talk today? Are words happening? Planets around 22 degrees are going to be affected by this full moon more. This is, I feel like, a very intense emotional full moon. Good thing you are an intense emotional person. Scorpio rising and Scorpio. This is like, I feel like you're going to be really experiencing some deep emotional truths. This is a time where you're maybe finishing a chapter of your life out. You're starting something new, you're ending something. It's a transitional kind of full moon. This full moon can have a surprising or revelatory quality to it. Could be a sudden change. It's maybe a sudden change in your life and also in your relationships. It could be a sudden breaking away. It could also be a sudden sparking or something happening in your relationship that really kind of surprises you, whether it's romantic, business, or platonic. This also could just be information that you're suddenly receiving about something that it's like that you just didn't see coming. Again, it doesn't have to be bad. It's just there is a surprising quality to this new moon and also an energy of breakthroughs. There's a lot of breakthroughs. It's sort of like where you've been keeping yourself stuck or keeping yourself small. Uranus can sort of help you to see like reality in a different way to help you make these breakthroughs and give you the courage to sort of make a change. Whether that again whether that's in your personal world having to do with yourself or also in your relationships, there's definitely an electrical charged, passionate energy with you around this full moon and also in your relationships. Just because the sun will be in Taurus conjunct Uranus in your seventh house of partnerships. Furthermore, if we look at May 17th, the sun will be conjunct Uranus in your seventh house of partnership at that time. So, like, um, that could be an extension of this full moon energy. It could be like relationships take us like there's a sudden change or pivot, or there's an exciting connection in your relationships and partnerships around that time. It could be just that relationships are very stimulating for you. They could be partnering or relating to or connecting to someone who's very different from you that challenges you, like that challenges your perception in some way. That's really kind of exciting. This full moon, if you go back to May 12th, is guided by your traditional ruling planet Mars. Mars is a planet of action, motivation, energy. It is moving through your 10th house of career right now. You're really maybe like kind of moving forward in your career finally. You feel like it's like we're kind of making strides, we're putting energy into career, public, and professional matters at this time. And the fact that Mars and Leo guides this full moon, there's a lot of passion, a lot of courage, and fiery energy around this full moon. There's some passion, I think, to this full moon as well, because Mars will be trine Venus at this time. Granted, it is separating, sort of fading in influence, but there's still kind of a fiery sort of quality to this full moon. It's like it is sort of like speaking what is on your heart, even if it's sort of scary to you. It is facing emotions that maybe you'd rather sort of leave buried. This is a big emotional release. Full moon is really how I see this energy. So great. Let's talk about Saturn and Aries. So on May 24th, Saturn, the planet of limitation, delays, work, and responsibility, limitations, delays, work, responsibility, lessons, that kind of thing, will be moving into your sixth house of work and health on May 24th and be there until September 1st. It's going to dip back into your fifth house of romance, of creativity and creative projects and children, and finish off some lessons there, and then move fully into your sixth house by February 2026. So this is kind of a preview, but really a big deal nonetheless, because when a planet like Saturn that only changes signs every 2-ish 3 years, somewhere in there, I can't remember the exact time, it is a big deal because you're going to notice like another part of life really activated for you. So Saturn is joining Neptune in your sixth house. And with Saturn, you kind of have to deal with like practical limitations on things. Like around like maybe the fact that there's going to be more work for you, that there's, hey, like I've needed more work and more, like say that you're like a freelancer and you're like, I really need more assignments and need more clients, and congrats, you might be getting more of those, but it's also like, how are you going to structure your time? Like Saturn is going to be asking you, how are you going to structure your time? How are you structuring your day-to-day life? How are you taking care of your health? Saturn will be demanding of you and asking, hey, we got to have a schedule. It's time to get things done. There's really no farting around when it comes to work and taking care of yourself. Um, so it can certainly introduce some new challenges, but at the same time, like, because it's Saturn and Aries, you really might be charting your own course because Aries is leadership and independence. So we might be looking at like, what does our ideal workday look like? What does our ideal health look like? How do we want to sort of take care of ourselves and kind of deal with these sort of mundane kind of parts of life that no one really wants to deal with? But Saturn is going to be asking you to deal with them. And there's a reward at I think there is a sense of accomplishment at the end of that, and it can certainly be dealing with some limitations and some delays around those things as well. Also, it's joining Neptune, and Neptune is here in your sixth house for several years, and Neptune is going to be asking like, what is the spiritual ideal of your work? Like, I kind of see your work life maybe totally changing. What you would consider to be your work, what you consider to be your job, how your job or your day job, I cannot talk, how your day is structured, really. Like Neptune is like, what is the ideal of that? And then Saturn is going to be joining there and be like, okay, like, how are we actually going to make this happen? And like, what are the practical kind of realities of that? Also, I really want you to take care of your health with these two planets in your sixth house. Neptune can make things a little confusing as far as health goes. And Saturn here can kind of represent like, hey, like let's meet the challenge. So if you've been thinking about like, I really need to work on my health, I need to stop smoking, you need to stop doing that when Saturn is in your sixth house, because if you continue, that could create problems for you. Or it just, planets like a planet like Saturn going through your sixth house may point out like, hey, here are the areas that are not working with our body or with our health. Or like on the other side of it, it could just be that like you might feel more proactive about health things and taking care of your physical vessel as well. So that is that. Let's talk about what are we talking about? We're talking about the new moon in Gemini. So the new moon in Gemini for you, Scorpio rising, is a really lovely new beginning connected to your finances. It's going to be connected to credits, loans, investments, other people's money that you are connected to, inheritance, grant programs, student aid, food stamps is technically like an eighth house matter as well. But if you're like needing to refinance or access credit or kind of shuffle around your finances, this is a good new moon to do that under. It's a good new moon for like life insurance or kind of getting your estate together because eighth house is mortality. So it's just like, hey, we're kind of getting our documents together. We're getting our stuff together. It's a good new moon to also start like a retirement or investment account on as well. There could be something new connected to your partner's finances. This is an excellent new moon generally overall to set intentions around new beginnings. So I would say new beginnings connected to financial kinds of things for you. Jupiter has been here in this part of your chart since May 2024. So you might have, been able to, maybe there's been an expansion in your finances connected to credit cards, loans, and debts and taxes and stuff that I mentioned before. And Jupiter can generally be helpful in this part of your chart. Sometimes it can be like, yeah, I got a fat credit card and I just maxed it out. That can also be Jupiter moving through your eighth house, especially in Gemini. Um, but just know that with this new moon, there is, I think, an optimistic quality to it. There is this sort of a little bit of luck, I think, associated with this new moon. And Jupiter is getting ready to move out of this part of your chart, so moving into your ninth house of spirituality, education, travel, publishing, and media, beginning June 10th, and teaching, anything connected to teaching and learning. So that's going to be a whole different experience and ballgame for you. So this is the last few days of Jupiter and Gemini. Enjoy it. I would also say this new moon, it's generally just kind of light and social. It's busy and it has like a lovely quality to it. And I'm going to say you're going to be able to track down the information and documents and things that you need for these financial things that I could see you doing under this new moon, because this new moon is guided by Mercury and Gemini. Um, and it's in its own sign in this new moon. So it's really able to kind of keep track of that information. Last thing I'm going to talk about, the eighth house can also be like deeper emotional kinds of things. It may be under this new moon, it's like you can, like, you're able to put a name to like maybe what you've been feeling or have more clarity around like your sort of deeper emotions, because Gemini is a very intellectual, heady sign. And it's like if you're feeling emotional under that Scorpio full moon, this new moon in Gemini, it's like, I feel like there's like clarity to your emotional life, clarity to the emotions and stuff that sort of intersect in your relationships as well. So that is what we have for you. So let's go ahead and talk about Sagittarius rising now. Okay, Sagittarius rising. Let's talk about the full moon in Scorpio. Well, let's start with the whole month of astrology for you, but we'll start with the full moon in Scorpio on May 12th. This full moon actually happens in your hidden 12th house. Um, so first of all, this is an emotional, intense full moon. I wonder if you may have more of a drive to like get a little rest or whatever you're processing or whatever is coming up for you around this time. I think maybe having some time in seclusion, some like rest retreat time, and some sort of like the full moon in Scorpio this time, it's like we're going to be drawing upon this sort of deeper well of emotion, and I think a lot of like revelatory insight to this full moon. Sometimes there can be frankly some surprising changes of direction or u-turns or sudden changes coming in with this full moon. But I'd say above all, make sure that you are able to get a little private time, getting a little like maybe even quality time in like nature or something. I think might be like deeply sort of healing or restorative for you around this full moon, because this full moon is intense. You may be receiving some, revelation or insight, maybe connected to things that you just like haven't been able to see, because this full moon is in your 12th house. The 12th house represents like things that are hidden to you, things that you can't see, your shadow. It could also be like a purge or release of like deeply sort of buried emotional things or just like things in your past. It's sort of like this full moon may be kind of clearing some things out for you. There also may be information related to health things for you or even work things for you as well. Because a couple days later on May 17th, the sun will be conjunct Uranus in your 6th house of work. Work, health, how you take care of your body, also pets can be a theme there as well. So it could be like a change of direction at work. There's something, maybe there's like a change with a coworker. There's sudden new information or some kind of excitement or some kind of breaking away in your work life or or some sort of new information connected to health. Perhaps it's like you're like, I really want to start this like random technique I just learned in like the gym or something, or I want to kind of try this like health regimen, but this full moon time, generally speaking, there is a shocking kind of quality to it, just kind of in the air. There is like a sudden U-turn kind of quality to it in the air. For you, I'm kind of thinking insights, revelations, sudden information. It's me coming from like a source that was initially hidden to you, that's kind of revealing something that you did not see. Or this could just be your subconscious kind of trying to tell you something as well. But think getting some rest retreat, some quality time, away from like the busy kind of humdrum of life. I would say take some time to get quiet during this full moon for you specifically. Also, this full moon, it is guided by Mars and Leo. There is a passionate, courageous quality to this full moon. There's a lot of fiery energy to this full moon, and I think kind of being guided by your beliefs and principles right now is, I think, something that you're going to be pulled to, or guided by your spirituality or kind of what you personally believe, because it is ruled by Mars and Leo transiting through your 9th house right now. So spirituality, education, and like, so there's something kind of more, I think, spiritual around this full moon for you, or really kind of being guided by morals and principles is something that I think you're going to kind of notice around that full moon. So let's talk about Saturn going to Aries. It's going to happen on May 24th. 2025. Saturn will be in Aries until so May 24th through September 1st or 2nd, and then it dips back into Pisces until February 2026, and then it's going to go into Aries for the next couple of years. So this is kind of like a taste, a preview. Either way, anytime we have a planet kind of ingress, and a planet like Saturn, like more like an outer planet or a bridge planet, going into a new sign is a pretty big deal. Saturn is responsibility, limitation, delays, work, lessons, like those kinds of things. And that has been moving through your fourth house of home and family, private life, parents, ancestors, roots, real estate, property. It's been moving through there since essentially March 2023. Maybe there's been more responsibilities or challenges relating to family. Maybe you've been really trying to shore up security at home or like saving for retirement or kind of starting the foundation of your life. But there could definitely be, sort of heavier things around like parents, around family, around putting maybe quite literally it could be like we're literally doing the foundation on our house. We are working on our home. We are like working on home things. And like slowly over time. Saturn is moving, and also could be, responsibilities, challenges, delays with parents or having to take care of parents or just family things could be heavier with Saturn moving through Pisces. And it is now moving into Aries, so it's going to be a whole different story, at least for a couple months. So Saturn is it's going to be moving through your fifth house. The fifth house is romance, all like the fun things in life: romance, children, pregnancy. Well, I'm not sure if pregnancy is fun, but kids can be fun. So, or rather, kids come from things that are fun, which is sex, which is a fifth house thing. And also, fifth house is like any hobbies, recreations, or passions, or also things that you create. It doesn't have to be like a poem or art. It can like literally be like, look at this table I built. That's a fifth house matter. You created that. You birthed that into the world. Saturn going into your fifth house is when it comes to romantic life, it's sort of like you could be sort of looking more for like a serious relationship where there's maybe you're trying to figure out like trying to balance like having fun with like the realities of just like your life. Like there could be some dating might dating in relationships. It may not move as like it may not move as a quick. It may not move at the quick pace that you are used to. Sagittarius rising, oftentimes it's like, let's go, let's have an adventure. Saturn moving into your fifth house is like, well, let's kind of think about it. Let's think about that adventure. I also, with Saturn moving into your fifth house, it could be that like your hobbies and your passions, there's like a work element around it. Like I've thought about thought about like doing this like creative project or like writing a book or like a long time. Saturn moving into your fifth house is like, okay, let's actually make a plan. Let's do it. Let's turn this hobby, this passion into something practical, into something worthwhile. It could be that there's maybe more responsibilities around children. Perhaps we're really focused on like getting pregnant, but maybe there are some obstacles kind of in the way. Doesn't mean that it won't happen, but it could be that there are delays around it. Also, what's interesting too is that Neptune is here in your fifth house newly as well. So Saturn and Neptune are going to be in the same sign. It's weird. It's going to be a weird energy. So like you're kind of looking for like a spiritually idealized something with your passions and your hobbies and your creativity and romance. You might be looking for that soulmate or like there's just a really interesting kind of quality to these fifth house things, like an elevated spiritualized quality that you're kind of searching for. And Saturn is going to be like, yes, I see that, but how does this work in real life? How can we make this sort of happen in real life? So kind of keep note of those of kind of what's happening for you with those topics from May 1st, from May 24th through September 1st. And maybe like write some things down in your journal and come back to it when Saturn goes back into Aries in February 2026, because it's like you can kind of glean some insight on what Saturn is going to be doing for you during this next period of time. So we have the new moon in Gemini on May 26th. This is a lovely, delightful Yas God Diva new moon. First of all, it's a very busy social new moon. There's like a lot of appointments. There's people to see. There's things to read. There's things to check out. It's like our minds are going to want to be really engaged during this new moon. And this is a really good new moon to set intentions or new beginnings around partnership for you. Your one-on-one connections, whether that is romantic partnership, whether that is a business partnership, or any kind of platonic connection where you're connecting with people, or But you also could find yourself, this would be a really good new moon actually to sign a contract on, or some sort of formal agreement, as your seventh house is your formal agreements that you have with other people or other entities. When I say entities, I don't mean like an alien being. I mean like a job or like a bank or something. So I said entities, and I was like, oh my God, like a spiritual entity? And I'm like, no. Also, think about the fact that Jupiter, so this new moon is co-present with Jupiter, the planet of expansion and optimism. And Jupiter has been moving through your seventh house of partnerships and collaborations since May 2024. So think about, like, I know of Sagittarius rising in particular that like she's a drag performer, and like ever since Jupiter went to her seventh house, it's been like she's like joined this drag family, and like it's like partnerships and collaborations have sort of helped her expand. So you might want to think about, like, hey, it might not be their romantic relationships, but it could be like friendships, people that you're collaborating with, business partnerships. Think about how that has helped you feel that has maybe brought you opportunities or expanded for you. Even though with Jupiter in Gemini this time, there's been this sort of, we have some expansion and then some contraction. It's like there's some expansion and then some challenges, right? But nonetheless, there is some expansion with Jupiter. So this new moon co-present Jupiter, there's just there's a little bit of a positive, lucky quality to this new moon, even though it's far away degree-wise, still occupying the same sign. Jupiter is I think, a parting blessing from Jupiter with this new moon, because Jupiter is going to go into Cancer on June 10th, and it's going to go into a financial sector for you. So it's expanding financial things and intimate partnerships and stuff, but we'll talk about that next time, actually later on this month, so I can get ahead of it. Yeah, collaborations beginning, new beginnings on partnerships and collaborations for you with this new moon. And generally, it's just it's like a really good new moon to connect with people, connect with your friends, connect with your lover and partner, and kind of be with people and to do things with people and to meet new people. And it's really, really wonderful for that. This new moon is trine Pluto in the third house. Pluto's planet of intensity, obsession, and transformation. This could also be like helpful for like working on any kind of communications project, on investigating or researching something, or connecting with people in your local community that have some like kind of that you might have like a more profound impact on you. But either way, it feels like a very kind of relationship focused, easy breezy, very social, kind of positive new moon for you, specifically in partnership. So that is what we have for Sagittarius rising. Let's go ahead and let's talk about Capricorn rising. Capricorn rising, we have, I don't know, one moment. Capricorn rising, let's start with the full moon for you on May 12th. It's going to be in Scorpio, it's on May 12th. General info around this new moon, it's emotional, it's intense. It is about facing emotions that we don't really want to face. And it's the full moon in Scorpio does not shy away from just like kind of raw emotional truth, or like revealing things that were sort of once hidden. This is going to be in your 11th house. This full moon, there is like a sudden change quality to it. There is a breaking away. There is also like a revelatory kind of quality to it, because this full moon is opposite Uranus, the planet of change, revolution, and breakthroughs and sudden insight. So there's kind of like a electrical quality to this full moon. So there could be some event, or could be an ending. It could be that there's just like a lot of attention being paid to, and like events kind of going on. It could be like a friend, frankly, it could be like a friend having a crisis. It could be like a friend that is dealing with something, or there's like a sudden split in a friendship relationship, or there's a sudden change in a friendship relationship. This is a friend, a colleague, people that belong to like the same club or organization that you do, or someone in like a group, or someone in like, let's say that you're like an influencer, someone in your social media following, like your fans. It could be that for some reason your like online profile is like blowing up or something, but I think that's more unlikely. But in general, there's a really kind of charged up energy happening with like the people who are kind of in your corners, essentially. This could also be like the sudden, like you might be like sudden completing of a goal, or you're like changing what your goals look like in this very kind of intense, sort of charged up way. because the 11th house where this full moon is happening is around like your hopes, wishes, and goals for the future. But there's something in your social world that I feel like is something is up with that with this full moon. And at the same time, 5 days later, there is a conjunction of the Sun in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus in your fifth house. This full moon on the 12th is at 22 degrees. Just keep in mind if you have any placements around 22 degrees of the fixed signs. And this conjunction of the Sun and Uranus on May 17th is around 27. So there could be like a spark, excitement, something different, unusual, or again, revelatory kind of energy connected to like a romance, a fling, something that just kind of happens. It could be that a sudden burst of creativity, something exciting around like a child or a pregnancy or something unusual connected to those matters, or something around like your hobbies and your passions. So these two areas of life, I think, are going to be more active for you on this full moon in Scorpio. But yeah, it's like this full moon in Scorpio, I just feel like there's something maybe like emotional with like a friend or a colleague or like associate, or like a sudden ending or change of affiliation with like a group around this full moon in Scorpio. There is a very passionate kind of energy because this full moon in Scorpio is being guided by the Mars in the sign of Leo. Mars is action, it's energy, it's motivation. And in Leo, it's very passionate, it's very courageous. And there's like this fiery kind of quality. So I kind of feel like, yes, we're all going to be like kind of inner feelings and experiencing something deep with this full moon. But at the same time, it's like we're going to be loud about it, kind of. It's like, this is what I'm feeling. It's sort of how I kind of see the energy of this full moon. So let's go to May 24th when Saturn goes into Aries. Saturn, the planet of responsibility, limitation, lessons, work, practical realities. So Saturn has been moving through your third house of communications. So Saturn in Pisces for you, it's been there since about March 2023. Let's say that you're like a Saturn moving through. The third house always starts me up. It's not just one thing, it's like a million. The third house is how you think, how you communicate, your communication space. Saturn moving through that space may have just been asking you to like, hey, do what you say you're gonna do. If you're gonna do, let's say, like a newsletter, like my friend at Capricorn Rising does a newsletter. He's working on that newsletter for a long time. And I can really see his social media really growing because he's like a tarot reader and teacher and everything. And sort of stepping into the role as a teacher, but also someone who's facilitating like community and local events as well, like being seen as an authority in local things. And Saturn moving through your third house. Third house is local things, it's local community, it's neighbors, it's siblings, it's people in your immediate surroundings. So it's like there could be challenges in those, like around those things, maybe challenges with siblings. Maybe having to commit to a local space or like a city that you don't necessarily want to be in, but you're like trying to make it work. Anyway, Saturn is moving out of that for the most part. It's moving into your fourth house of home and family, ancestors, roots, property, private life in your foundation on May 24th, and it's going to be there until September 1st. And it's going to backslide into Pisces to finish something off in your third house. So by February 2026, it's going to be in Aries for the next couple years. So this period of time that I talked about, May 24th through September 1st, is like a preview of kind of what's to come. So some things that can happen when Saturn goes to your fourth is like, so fourth house is family and parents. It could be that maybe you have more responsibility to family and parents. Perhaps there's challenges around there. Perhaps you're really going to be working on foundation and home. It could be like, we have a home renovation project that's going to take a couple years, and guess what? It's happening when Saturn goes in the fourth. I've seen that happen a couple different times. Or that we are trying to establish more foundation and more security for ourselves as well, because the fourth house can be sort of like our personal private foundation. It's sort of like you might be starting something now. Rob Hand talks about this in the planets in transit that may culminate when Saturn goes in your 10th house of career about 10, 11 years from now. So there's maybe like a seeding process happening, maybe connected to career that is harvest for like the next 14 years. But I feel like the realities of things on home, on family, on aging parents, on your personal security, those things really come into focus and are really crystallized with Saturn moving into Aries. Setting boundaries with family too, because Saturn and Aries are specific, I think, lessons on boundary setting, taking leadership, taking ownership. At the same time, it's going to be co-present with Neptune, and Neptune sort of wants to bring a spiritual ideal to these sort of home and family matters for you for the next several years. And so you may be thinking of like, how can I make my dream home reality? Like, how can I make my dream home space like actually kind of crystallize and kind of come into focus? How do I want my family to feel, like my private life? It's like these two planets are going to have a really interesting kind of working together. It really may be that your current reality as far as home might be like really shifting with Saturn and Neptune in kind of cohabitating in the same sign. Is there anything else? I would also say ancestor veneration and ancestor like connection and healing is also a fourth house home and family topic, because Saturn is elders, like wise elders from the past, ancestors. Moving into fourth house of home and family, you could think about ancestor healing, working with your ancestors. Saturn moving through your fourth, good time to engage with that and kind of like, because that can be that can be a very powerful practice. So that is Saturn in the fourth house. Again, there's a lot that depends on how that personally manifests for you. It depends on your personal chart. Remember, I can always work with you one-on-one. So, new moon in Gemini on May 26th. This is a delightful little new moon. Really good new moon for you if you're seeking work. If you're looking for a new beginning in your job, if you're looking for a new job, if you're looking for a change of pace at work, there might be a new beginning with like a coworker or people who work for you. This is a really good time to set intentions around health and taking care of your health as well. Getting new information around health practices and taking care of body, physical injury, physical health type stuff. And this is also just like a lovely social new moon energy. It's in Gemini. So this could be like, oh my God, I like met someone at work and like we're like bonding and there's like new beginning, but it's around work and health things. But yeah, so definitely if you're seeking work or just wanting something, a fresh coat of paint, in the office or in your work life, in your work routine kind of energy, really good energy for that. Same thing with health. Jupiter has been, this new moon is co-present with Jupiter. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, of optimism, of success. It's been moving through your health, work and health sector. Also, this is the house of pets too. Maybe more pets in your life. I don't know. Jupiter has been moving through this part of your chart since May 2024. So you might want to think about like, where have you seen growth and expansion in your work life, in your clients, if you're freelance, that kind of thing. Or maybe there's more work than you can handle, because sometimes Jupiter can be expansion and like just keep expanding and like, not have any moderation. But this new moon, there is a kind of a positive, kind of lucky quality to it. Really good, especially this new moon. It is busy, it is social. Yes, it's good for connecting with others, like easy breezy, but also anything connected to information, communication, important documents. Really good new moon for just keeping track of things. So like if there's some sort of big new work thing that you're doing, this new moon is a really good new moon to stay organized on top of all the incoming information and documents that you would need, because it is ruled by Mercury in Gemini, the planet of communication in its home sign. There is a connection there's a trine to Pluto with this new moon for you. And so that's a flowing connection to the planet of intensity, obsession, and transformation. Pluto went into your second house of money, by the way, this year. It's going to be there for 20 some years. And your relationship to your resources and your assets and your wealth, like creating wealth, it's really going to be radically changing. I mean, granted, this is a very long transit, depends on what planets is aspecting, yada, yada, yada. However, just know that something is happening with your money, and Pluto is going to be changing your relationship to it and maybe helping that to like intensely expand, right? So with this new moon in your sixth house connected to Pluto, it could be some sort of new work opportunity that maybe gives you more financial security, or you're thinking about how new things connected to your work and health. There's a connection with your work and health sector to Pluto in the second house of money that is harmonious under this new moon. So it could be like new ideas in your work life that are connected to money for you, or connected to like resources in some way. So that is what we have for oh, by the way, Capricorn rising, Jupiter is going to be leaving Gemini by June 10th. So this new moon in Gemini, it's a goodbye to Jupiter. And Jupiter is moving into your seventh house of partnership. So partnerships, relationships, platonic, romantic, that is going to be really, I think, seriously expanding for you, and something really, really positive is coming in. And Jupiter is going to be in Cancer for a year, I think 12, 13 months. So just FYI, a little preview. Okay, let's talk about Aquarius rising. Aquarius, Aquarius. Okay, so Aquarius rising, let's talk about the month of May 2025 astrologically for you. We're going to start this forecast off with a bang for you. May 12th, we have a intense full moon. Sometimes I search for another word beyond intense to describe Scorpio, but intense is really, I can describe Scorpio. It's an intense and emotional full moon in Scorpio. This is, I get the word power surge, because this is happening in your career sector. So you could be completing something or completing a cycle, or it could be a sudden ending or sudden shift or sudden revelations connected to a career matter for you. Anything connected to career, how you're seen professionally, your public reputation, it's in the most visible part of your chart. And the full moon in Scorpio, it's like I think we're all going to be kind of digging deep and kind of unearthing some emotional truths, and also looking at ways that maybe we've been stuck in breaking away from those things. And the reason I say surprises, sudden breaking away, revelatory insights, that's because this full moon is opposite the planet Uranus, the planet of revolution, change, and breakthroughs, in your fourth house of home and family. So the spotlight, I think, is really going to be on you at work. It could be like, hey, there's an authority figure or boss suddenly quitting or suddenly leaving, or some change with them, because that can also be authority figures as well. But I just feel like when I was looking at it, I was like, I just kind of feel like there's like this really powerful kind of energy. I just really feel like you kind of have a lot going on with this full moon, because this full moon is ruled by Mars. Mars traditionally rules Scorpio, so you want to look at what Mars is doing during a Scorpio full moon. Mars is in the sign of Leo for you right now. It's a sign of Leo for everyone, but Mars is action, motivation, energy, war. It's in Leo. It's a very passionate, kind of courageous sign for it to be in. And Mars is in your seventh house. So when it comes to partnerships, they're very dynamic right now. Perhaps there's a little bit of friction, but it's like your partnerships and alliances and relationships are really heating up, especially around this full moon. And I wonder if there's something maybe going on there for you. I'm not sure exactly what, but because this full moon is in a very kind of public part of your chart, we have Mars at a very angular part of your chart. I also want to point out too, Pluto, the planet of intensity, obsession, and transformation, went into your sign this year as well. And I just kind of feel like you are not one to be fucked with with this full moon. Because Pluto going into your sign, this is a very long process. It depends on where your ascendant is. But I think Pluto going into your sign, you can kind of feel a little bit of a shift of like a growing sense of power, a growing sense of intensity, and someone who is like really going to be looking for deeper truth and meaning, and eventually experiencing a sort of radical transformation of your very core self. It depends on where your ascendant is. You're especially feeling it if your ascendant is at those very early degrees of Aquarius, or if you have planets like around 3 degrees of Aquarius right now. But I digress. So something going on for career for you, I think, around May 12th, and then on May 17th, there's a conjunction of the Sun and Uranus, so kind of an extension of this full moon energy. In your fourth house of home and family, there can be a sudden change connected to home, connected to family. There's like a sudden insight, or hey, there's like something about our house we haven't noticed before, or like we're like looking for something, there's something that kind of pops up right away, or there's something unusual and different happening with like a family member. There's just like a charged up electric quality happening in your kind of like the most private part of your chart. So it's like I see that full moon as being career, authority figures, public reputation. There's also something going on at home too during around May 17th. And just because I say sudden or I say change does not mean bad, but there is a kind of electrical quality to those few days in very kind of critical parts of your chart around that full moon energy. So let's talk about Saturn going into Aries. Saturn, limitation, delays, work, lessons, responsibility, structure. It is leaving your second house of money, and it has been in Pisces in your second house of money since March 2023. Perhaps you've been feeling like construction, need to budget, really working on your finances, maybe feeling some like limitations and delays in your resources, in your movable assets, in your cash, maybe learning some lessons about self-worth and values. Saturn is going to go into Aries from May 24th through September 1st, and it's going to backslide into Pisces, finishing out its journey there February 2026. Then it'll go into Aries for a couple years. So Saturn's going to go into your third house. I think that you are going to be. Third house kind of covers a lot. I don't know you. I don't have your personal chart in front of me. But third house is how you think, it's communication, it's your local environment, the people around you in your local environment. So it's like the thing that maybe you've been wanting to learn. Saturn's going to be like, let's learn the thing. Let's take the class. Let's get the certification. Let's write the book. Let's do the podcast. Let's face our fear of public speaking. Let's face our fear of teaching. Let's become the authority on information. Especially because Aquarius rising, you are more of a logical sign. You like systems and order and very intellectual. Saturn moving through your third house, it's sort of like anything around information and communication. It's like, let's put the work in. It can definitely be like more. I also can see it. I can see it being like becoming an authority in your like local area. Seven can also be challenges and limitations and delays and just kind of important things, or I don't know, important things is the right word. But things connected to, there might be like more responsibility connected to siblings, or perhaps they were going through some challenging times. Um, it can also be like maybe putting down roots in like a local community. It's like I really want to get involved in community and take responsibility and leadership in my community, and like like my neighbors and things like that. It's like getting more involved. Neptune is here as well. Neptune just went into Aries. It just went into this part of your chart, and it's like the higher spiritual ideals of all that I was talking about. Like getting inspired to write the book, do the podcast, getting involved in local community. But Saturn comes in and it's like, okay, what are the practical realities of that? Like, where's the work? How's this all going to kind of fit together? And it can even be like oddly like how you get places, because third house is travel. It's like short distance travel, how you get around, how you commute. If you're like I've kind of always wanted to like abandon my car and like do public transportation and like really do that. That's kind of Saturn, Neptune. Like Neptune is like, it's going to be great helping the environment. Saturn might be like, okay, this is harder than I thought. I have to be on a bus too. It could be things connected to that. Definitely kind of jot down what's kind of happening in your life, May 24th through September 1st. And so when Saturn comes back in February, you might have some insight as to the topics of life that are definitely affected by that. And then May 26th, we have a new moon. Ooh, that's a good new moon for you. Okay. Wow, I can't talk. We have a new moon in Gemini on May 26th. It is a lovely, lively, busy, social, intellectual, communication focused new moon. It is co-present with Gemini. There's a lot of optimism. There's a little bit of luck here. And this is in your fifth house of romance, creativity, creative projects, hobbies and passions, children, pregnancy, childbirth. Anything I missed? I think I got it. And so this is a really good new moon to just set intentions on, no matter what those intentions are. Just FYI, really good for new beginnings, but especially good for things that are fun in your life. This could be, like the spark of a new beginning with like, I would say like, if you're feeling like going on a date, go on a date under this new moon. Go meet people. Indulge your creativity. Try something out. Like this feels like do something creative, but with people. Like go try like a painting and sip class or something, or take a new class, something that's fun for you. And this new moon is ruled by Mercury in Gemini. So there is a very steady, I wouldn't say Gemini is a steady energy, but when you have a lunation ruled by a planet, that does really well in that sign, in this case, Mercury rules Gemini, there's a steady quality to this energy. It's like what you intend in the new beginning that you are setting for yourself that may just end up like there's more of a chance of it working out, like, or like having some like positive sort of effect or like positive consequence. Um, so yeah, so good things, and I would say anything connected to creativity, creative projects, any anything again that's fun, anything that you're giving birth to figuratively or literally, or really connected to your heart and your passions. It's a really good new moon to just kind of enjoy connecting with people. It's a really kind of good mind stimulating energy. This new moon is trine Pluto in Aquarius in your sign. It's like I kind of feel like there's a if you need to like research something or investigate something really deeply or get really fascinated about a subject, you can definitely do that under this full moon. But I just feel like um, it's trine Pluto in your first house. There is a feeling of like there's something restorative about it, but it's like restorative about like connecting to people, using your mind, about like easy breezy connections. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's trine Pluto, the planet of obsession, intensity, and transformation. So um, I just feel like go be a little busybody or do something fun, basically, around this new moon. And there's just a chance, there's a better chance that those things will work out better. Jupiter, by the way, in Gemini, we're saying goodbye to Jupiter in Gemini under this new moon. It goes into Cancer on June 10th. So, like 2 weeks after this, and Jupiter has been moving through your fifth house of romance, creativity, hobbies, passions, creation, and children since May 2024. So think about how those areas might have expanded for you or what opportunities that has brought in. There's been some contractions, like where you have expansion, there's contraction with Jupiter and Gemini this time around. But when Jupiter goes into Cancer, it's a whole different story. Jupiter's really strong in Cancer, and the chance to improve work life and bring more work if you need it into your life, improve health. Amazing when Jupiter goes into Cancer because it's going to your sixth house of work and health on June 10th. So happy new moon to my Aquarius risings. Let's talk to my Pisces risings now. Pisces rising, May astrology. Full moon for you is going to be happening in the ninth house. So let's talk about, okay, first of all, let me back up. May 12th, 2025 is the full moon in Scorpio. That is happening for you about 22 degrees. This is an emotional and intense full moon. There's a lot of like, I think you're going to be really connecting to like raw emotional truths. What are your personal truths? What is it that you believe? Because this full moon is in your ninth house of your beliefs, of your personal, political, spiritual beliefs. It also, and this, there's a lot of surprises, sudden U-turns, breakthroughs, and general kind of unexpected kind of change energy around this moon. It's very exciting, electrical kind of feeling full moon. And also, I would say personal and spiritual revelations for you as well. The reason I'm saying that is because this full moon is opposite Uranus, the planet of revolution, change, and breakthroughs. And I just feel like it's about like, because this full moon is in the ninth house, so there could be an ending, a completion, a culmination, or sudden, a sudden ending, a sudden culmination, or uh, all of a sudden intense interest in things connected to higher education, your spirituality, what you believe, things connected to travel, other cultures, how you expand your mind, anything connecting to broadcasting and media and publishing as well. Um, it's like we could be finding out sudden news connected to these areas. It's like, oh, I have a sudden, like, I really want to take this course. I'm just like getting really involved in this all of a sudden. But this full moon is emotional. It is very passionate as well. It is very raw. Again, it's like raw. I feel like it's like, I feel like there's a lot for you about truths, revelations, and insights, and like just seeing the big picture of things and how everything works. With this full moon in your ninth house. A couple days later on May 17th, it's sort of like a continuation of this full moon energy because the sun in Taurus will be conjunct Uranus. So there's like a revisiting of a topic or there's something like related to it that's happening around that time. Um, you know, and this conjunction is going to be in your third house. So could be a correspondence, an email, information that you're stumbling upon that is revelatory for you, surprising. Could be just surprising news in your personal sphere connected to like a neighbor, or a community member, a sibling, some sort of change in your mode of transportation, something exciting happening in a communication project or how you think. But yeah, a very kind of electrical, passionate full moon. That full moon is ruled by Mars and Leo. And um, Mars is action, energy, motivation. It's the traditional ruling planet of Scorpio. And there is kind of a hot and spicy quality to this full moon. And just being able to speak with courage, to lead with our hearts, to speak passionately with courage, and like feeling the fear and kind of doing it anyway is about that. So you may really like be speaking about your beliefs or really connecting to them or really connecting to spirituality in a very deep, raw way that's not like fucking around. It's like, we're not ascending to 5D energy. This is like, hey, I just realized there's something really toxic in my life and I'm kind of releasing it, letting go. There's a release and letting go quality to this full moon as well. But for you, it's something connected to what you believe, spirituality, education, travel, those ninth house things that I talked about. So it'll be interesting to let me know how that works out for you. So May 24th, we have Saturn, the planet of limitation, delays, responsibility, heavy energy, practical energy. That's the reason why I'm putting emphasis on this heavy energy. It's been in your sign since March 2023. It's getting ready to move sign. So congratulations, Pisces rising. You did it. Almost. So feel like you've been on one lesson after another, a lot of growth spurts. Perhaps you really have had to show up as like the wise elder in the world and really learn some kind of harder sort of lessons. Sometimes this can relate to physical body stuff too. It can be challenges with physical body, or just feel like you're getting older a little bit, like your joints hurt a little bit more. Because first house is physical body, it's vitality and health. So Saturn moving through that, it's like there's a real impetus. Not sure that's the right word. A real importance to sort of take care of your physical vessel when Saturn's going through your sign. It also can just be like maybe you had to step up in the world and like leader, manager, feeling just like you've had to grow up some with Saturn moving through your sign. So Saturn is going to move into Aries on May 24th and be there till September 1st. It then backslides into Aries, or it backslides into Pisces. It retrogrades into Pisces until February 2026, and then will enter Aries for the next couple years. So Saturn is getting ready to go into your second house of money, possessions, cash flow, assets, self-worth, and values. So you may have been kind of manifesting a little bit or dreaming, or like maybe there's a higher ideal of something that you're wanting to, because Neptune, the planet of spiritual ideals and idealism and higher spirituality, moved into your second house of money in April. I talked about that in the April forecast. So like we could be changing our relationship to money in some way. Perhaps you're wanting to make money in like a spiritual way, a more creative way. Or perhaps we're like, hey, what would it be like? We're broke all the time. Like what is that like? Or, um, you know, uh, um, Saturn moving into your second house is sort of like, okay, I see the dreams that we're wanting to bring in with money, but how are we going to practically do that? You may be working on things like cleaning up spending, saving for something, saving for an important thing. Money becomes more important to you. It's more practical. Maybe you're feeling some like, hey, I really want to save for a down payment on a house. Or I really want to save for a big purchase. It's kind of Saturn's energy here. Saturn in Aries, it's going to be challenging. Saturn in Aries is an interesting placement because Saturn is considered to be Aries wants to charge forward and just do it, and Saturn's like wait. So I kind of feel like there's like we're just really minding our money with Saturn moving through our second house, like cleaning up our finances is kind of what it's giving me, like working hard for money, learning about worth and value of our physical possessions, and also learning about our own worth and value, and like, are we getting underpaid? Are we overworked and underpaid? Like, what is our actual value? So the practical value of money and our possessions and how we sort of monetize ourselves, like you're going to be changing your relationship to a lot of that. And just essentially, and like essentially Saturn going through your second house, you're just going to have to like maybe not take it more seriously, but you're just going to feel that on a more practical level. It's like with Saturn going through your second house, it's like literally like you're going to understand the meaning of saving for a rainy day. And also like learning the value of what you have too. So that is going to be coming up for you with Saturn going into Aries. So May 26th, we have a lovely little new moon. This is a lively, busy, social new moon. There's a little bit of luck and expansiveness to it because it's co-present with Jupiter. This new moon is in the sign of Gemini. It's happening May 26th. And this new moon is happening in your home and family sector. This is a lovely new moon for setting intentions for new beginnings, like wiping the slate clean. So, if anything related to home, to family, to private life, to your roots, where you came from, to parents, um, this is a really good new beginning. So on the most mundane level, it could be like, oh my god, like I went with my mom and went like to like Home Depot, or not Home Depot, I went like home shopping and like did stuff at my house. That could how you experience this new moon. This could also really be a good time to like, let's say you're like bidding on a house or applying for a mortgage or something home real estate related. Good time, especially everything with like the documents and everything associated involved, because this new moon is ruled by Mercury in Gemini. Mercury is planet of communication. It rules Gemini. Just really fortunate new beginnings. I feel like connected to home and to family for you. Even if it's small and mundane, or if it could be really, really big, put your intentions out there, and like this would be like the time to sort of work on your manifestations, essentially. And again, it could just be like busy social energy connected to your family, or maybe have like a little gathering at your home. It could be really good use of this energy. It could be a good time to like, we kind of associate Virgo with organizing, but this could be a time to just be like, let me like dig through my stuff and figure out like let's put like a fresh splash of coat of paint on the wall, or organize a little bit, or just kind of freshen up our home environment, sort of what it's kind of making you feel. So yeah, and I also want to mention Jupiter is getting ready to move out of this part of your chart. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, has been in Gemini since May 2024. Been there for a little over a year, and it's going to be This is our good pie party to Jupiter. So maybe your home is expanded in some way. Maybe you moved. Maybe there's an expansion to family. Maybe there's home renovation, or just more of a feeling of maybe just you really were like wanting more peace and more expansiveness in your personal private space. So kind of think about maybe how that has maybe transpired for you if you're Pisces rising since May 2024. And Jupiter is moving into your fifth house of romance, of children, of childbirth, passions, and creativity. If you're capable of getting pregnant, and you don't want to be June 10th on, take precautions. Um, Fifth house is pregnancy. Jupiter is a baby boom energy, or Jupiter in Cancer is a baby boom energy. It could be like love and romance and everything else for you too, but guess what comes from love and romance with straight people? It's babies. So, just little warning there. But also, if you want babies, great. That's a great transit. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself because Jupiter in Cancer isn't until June 10th, and we'll be talking about that in a future video. So, cool. That is what we have for this month. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, all the good things. Find me at darkstaroracle.com. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok at darkstaroracle. And if you enjoyed this video and you want more of a comprehensive look at your birth chart, guidance for the year ahead, or you want to talk to your spirit guides, I'm your boy, darkstaroracle.com. Happy to work with you. I'd love to work with you. So I will talk to you soon, and we'll talk more about this month's astrology and kind of what's coming up. So thanks, guys.